Being somewhat unconscious, I hit the entrance to La La Land, the gas station, and jumped 46 feet in the air, hitting the nose of the Cadillac, going end over end 3 times, and then rolling in a roll 3 to 4 times before landing upside down in a waist-deep ditch full of water. It was January 15th, 2013. I had a near-death car accident, and it was caused by hypoglycemia. My blood sugar had got too low on the way home from work, and had a near-fatal crash. But leading up to that crash, I was diagnosed diabetic 6 months prior, weighing about 300 pounds, and I'd lost about 50 pounds up to that date. A few days before the crash, I had some dental work. And you know, with dental work, your mouth doesn't always feel so well a few days later. I didn't feel like eating a lot. Well, not feeling like eating a lot and taking the diabetic medicine, I let my blood sugar get too low, and unaware of what was happening, on my way home, I felt sick. I didn't feel normal, so I cracked the window and kind of turned up the stereo and shook it off, and I must have been tired. It's January 15th, it was kind of cold, it was foggy, it was raining, and just about dark. About 5:20 in the afternoon, I was heading on Highway 90, just west of the Highway 57 intersection, and I just felt something come over me, a weakness. I felt faint. I felt like I was going to pass out. And like I said, after rolling down the window somewhat, turning up the stereo, I felt my head go down, and I kind of jerked myself to. I'm not, this is not right. So something's going on, and all of a sudden I felt myself black out. Well, I kind of came to for just a second, enough to move over from the left-hand lane, which was the fast lane, to the right-hand lane. Traffic, as I remember, was very tight that afternoon. As I passed out into the right-hand lane, I believe my foot went down on my wife's Cadillac CTS, and wearing steel-toe shoes, I accelerated with they think is to 80 to 100 miles an hour in the emergency lane, passing all the rows of cars in the right-hand lane. In the emergency lane, I was unaware of what was going on. Lucky to be just on that edge. I clipped the back end of a Jeep and was lucky not to go across the lane or even hit anyone in the rear. I came to for half a second, knowing something was wrong with me. I knew I was in trouble, but I wasn't conscious enough or had the ability to stop myself. So my eyes somehow picked up a light on the side of the road, and it was an abandoned gas station there in Gautier, Mississippi, called La La Land. I was actually in La La Land, but I knew by taking some flying lessons earlier in my life that the safest place to crash was a place that would not cause any collateral damage. I wanted to get off the road, and I wanted to get off in the safest spot. This being the only spot on the north side of the road before the intersection, I turned the wheel. And I was still passed out, but somehow I got in there. Did not recognize how fast I was going. Being somewhat unconscious, I hit the entrance to La La Land, the gas station, and jumped 46 feet in the air, hitting the nose of the Cadillac, going end over end 3 times, and then rolling in a roll 3 to 4 times before landing upside down in a waist-deep ditch full of water. After I'd landed upside down in the ditch full of water, I was submerged. The front end of the car was tore apart. The car was crunched around me, and I had a massive head injury with lacerations in my forehead and my eye. I broke my orbital socket. I broke my nose across the bridge. The seat belt that was holding me in the car had broke my sternum, and it also broke my left wrist. Beat up like I was in a boxing match. I was still out, upside down in a ditch full of muddy water, and didn't know what was going on. My first recollection of something happening was cold water hitting my body and a lot of sounds. After that, I'd heard voices, and I had felt this cold water on me, but I was still unconscious. Going in and out, I was bleeding to death, and I believe I was drowning. It was somewhat peaceful though, which was strange. Very comfortable. I may have been very close to death. The heroes that night were a man named Marc Poole, an instructor at Mississippi Gulf Coast Junior College that was actually behind me on the highway and had seen me pass out in my erratic driving, and had actually seen the car come apart and wreck, and as he's described it, it was the worst NASCAR wreck he'd ever seen. He stops the traffic behind me. He gets out of his car, and after the crash is finally over, he runs up to the car, and he can't see me, and they're imagining, him and another gentleman, imagining I'm dead. They don't have a flashlight, so they run back to their vehicle and get a flashlight, run down into the waist-deep water. The car is submerged, and they shine the light in there, and they see me gasping for air, aspirating muddy ditch water, and bubbles coming out of my nose, he said. So they run back to their vehicle and get a crowbar. I remember hearing a smash and more water rushing into the car, and that was them breaking in the rear window of that Cadillac CTS. And I remember a gentleman holding me up out of the water, and that was Marc Poole, diving in underwater, grabbing me by the head, still seat belted in with everything crushed around me, holding me up and trying to hold my laceration down on my head. I was bleeding out and spitting up and unconscious. Of course, then I pass out. He's telling me to hold on, hold on. I have no recollection of time. I think around 30 minutes went by before the emergency responders got there. And I remember a paramedic kicking in the side window and shining a light in on me. And I remember looking at this light. And the gentleman said, "I'm glad to see you." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm glad to see you too." And then I passed back out. It took a while for them to, what I understand, use an airbag to airbag the car up out of the water, and then the jaws of life to pull the doors off to get me out. The whole time Marc Poole is holding me up. People are concerned about my neck. They're telling him to watch my neck, and I remember him telling him that the guy's bleeding to death, he's drowning, I've got to keep him up. All I could remember was choking, spitting mud, and the blood just pouring out of me, and not really knowing what happened. It was a bad dream. I literally thought I was in a dream, but it was very comfortable. All I could feel was cold water. As they started to pull me out of the passenger door on my back, they were grabbing onto my shirt and trying to pull on me. And I was conscious of them trying to pull on me, but passing out just every minute or so. By that time, I'd held up traffic up to 5 miles, both lanes. There was all kind of people around me, but I just wasn't aware of it. Unconscious and bleeding to death, I was passing out every other second. Not real sure what had happened. So when I came to and they're pulling on me, trying to get me out of the car, my arms wouldn't work. It seemed that my arms just wouldn't work, but my legs would. Well, my right leg was pinned up underneath the dash and hung. I told them after they yanked on me 2 or 3 times trying to get me out, seeing he's a big guy, I said, my arms won't work, but my legs will. And I was given the strength to get my leg out and push my way out with these gentlemen dragging me to the ground. Still just unaware of what was going on, dazed and confused, I laid on the ground with all these people around me, and they were trying to work on me. Well, something told me to stand up. I was just trying to get out of there, trying to stand up, very confused. They said I was jumbling words. My words wasn't coming out just right. I guess the lick to my head kind of had me dazed and confused once again. But I stood up with them trying to physically force me to lay down. And I remember them saying, Mr. Walker's just confused, he's not combative. I stood up and looked around and looked at the wreckage, still unaware of what was going on. I told them, guys, I ain't with this. This is a bad deal. Let's take it to the house. And turned and fell down and passed out with them guiding me slowly with many hands holding me down to the ground. Next thing I remember, of course, was being slid onto a neck board and put into the ambulance, where I had then gained a little bit of awareness of what exactly had happened. My main question was, what happened? Did I hurt anyone? I knew I was in a wreck. Mr. Walker had been in a massive car wreck. Did I hurt anyone? Was only my concern. That was the only thing I was concerned about. They told me, no one's been hurt, but you're pretty hurt. We're taking you to Ocean Springs Hospital, which was only about 5 miles away. I passed out again. I don't remember anything on the ride back to the hospital, but I do remember being in the ER and them cutting my wet clothes off of me and getting ready for CAT scans and MRIs and hooking me up with IVs and blood and different types of body monitors. I don't remember anything about CAT scans or MRIs. I do remember being back in the ER. And time went by. From what I understand from my wife, she was calling on me, and of course my phone was lost in the wreck. They kept asking me, do I have a next of kin? And I was still confused, still asking what happened, still asked did I hurt anyone. I knew I'd wrecked, but I didn't know if I'd taken out anybody, or I didn't want anybody else hurt. I didn't know my extent of my injuries. Couldn't feel the massive lacerations on my head and broken face and sternum. I just felt like I had the weight of the world on my chest. My arm didn't feel too good. Knuckles bloody, face beat up. I was in pretty bad shape, but didn't know it. Once my reports had come back, the x-rays and the CAT scans and MRIs, and luckily I didn't have any facial breaks, but the nose and the orbital lacerations, a sternum break and a wrist break. I banged and bruised up and cut up good. They went to sewing me up and then finally put me in a room. Being in that room, all I wanted to do was sleep. The pain was excruciating. It was more than I have ever taken in my life. And they asked me, Mr. Walker, can I give you something for pain? I said, yes, ma'am, whatever you'd like to give me, I'd appreciate. I was just glad to be alive. Still a little dazed and confused, but knew I was alive. I didn't know the extent of the wreck. Didn't have any real memory, because my memory took weeks to come back about the wreck, and things are still coming clear 8 months later. Still coming a little clearer every day about what happened. They had me in intensive care unit, and of course my family was the only people to see me, but I had an outpouring of love and care from physicians and doctors and nurses that work with my wife in the healthcare system, and friends and family and children that I had coached in youth sports over a period of 15 years that had just outpoured that I was hurt. Really gave me motivation to get well, but they didn't release me from the hospital for about a week. After that release, I was still unable to walk. I had extreme concussion, a massive head trauma, broken sternum, which was hard to breathe, and I had what they call vertigo, where I could not walk in a straight line and couldn't turn my head even in the bed. The bed would spin like in a tornado. So that was my major concern, was memory and will I ever get better. But thankful that I was still alive. I was just gracious to have the support that I had, and then the outpouring of just family and friends was just, it was just heart-wrenching to me. I didn't know I was loved that much. So a few weeks went by and I was able to get the stitches taken out of me, and I was on the road to recovery, but I was sleeping a lot. I had so many people come by my house, so many people call me, and so many people just sincerely was worried about me, and a lot of people didn't know I was even hurt, and that's my Facebook family. After I got my stitches out, it was a warm early February day. I stepped out on my porch, was able to walk in a straight line, and vertigo was still a major issue, but I was there home alone, and sitting in the sun, I sat and prayed, and I was just thankful for the sun to be on my face. Thankful to be able to smell the clean air and get outside. I hadn't been outside in a few weeks. So I pulled up my new phone, which I didn't know how to operate too well, and I hadn't logged on to Facebook. I'm not a big Facebooker, but I like to wish happy birthdays, see the pictures of my friends' children, and just share the good memories in their lives, along with some of the good memories in my life. And I'd made a post that I was glad to have the sun on my face, that I got my stitches out and I was recovering well, and I did a short story on the wreck. For those that didn't know about the wreck, I had explained it in a paragraph. The outpouring was immediate. People responded to me, calling me at my home, emailing me, Facebooking me, wishing me all the best. It was heart-touching, to say the least. I knew I was loved, and had not yet was able to really read a long time. I had severe headaches, and the vertigo, if I was to focus on one object, like to read a page, was still difficult. But I knew when I was outside and I had prayed that the Lord had saved me, and had saved me for a reason. So I started reading my New English Bible. It's easier for me to read because I sometimes don't understand, like many people, the old tongue when the Bible was written. And I started in the beginning in Genesis. And each day I read more and more. Being home alone was somewhat humbling also, because I couldn't go outside, I couldn't drive, had to walk very slowly to get around the house. My family had laid out my medicines for me and meals, and people were stopping in, checking on me. But my main entertainment wasn't the television. It wasn't talking on the phone, because I was still hurting. It was sitting down in a comfortable position and reading that New English Bible in the modern tongue. It made sense to me then. I had read the Bible and parts of the Bible many times, but never really understood it like I did then. Reading it in a modern tongue and applying it to real life took a new meaning. So it was raining one afternoon, very similar. I think it was around February 7th, 3 weeks after the wreck. I was standing looking out the window, and I was watching the birds fly around eating. And they were surviving. And they were surviving on the bird seed that we had left in the bird feeders. And that took a new meaning for me, that we had provided life for them, and God had provided life for me. And then it wasn't over for me. He left me here for a reason. He guided them gentlemen that saved my life to take action to save me, because they're Christian men. And that was moving to me. So I prayed, watching some birds eat. out of a bird feeder in my house. I prayed, standing in the window, prayed, thank Jesus for sparing my life and leaving me here on earth to complete what he has for me. That it wasn't my time then, that he wasn't ready for me then, that I had work to do in his name. I needed to live for him. I needed to be his warrior. Before I thought I was invincible, that I couldn't be hurt. Being an ex-bodybuilder, a partier, an athlete, I thought this couldn't happen to me. My concerns were just getting well, but also my concerns were, I have a mission now. The God has given me a mission to stay here on earth, and one, to be a father and a husband to my family, but two, to live for him and spread the joy and spread his love through my community and through everyone that I can meet. I was reading the Bible vigilantly, and it all was making sense to me. The picture was clear to where it was cloudy before. He came into my life and gave me vision. He'd give me the Christian sight. There's more to it than just saying you're a Christian. Is committing to being a Christian, accepting the Lord as your Savior, and living through him and letting him live through you. So today I am so thankful to be alive. My life has changed in every way. I'm more peaceful now. I'm at peace in my heart. I have so much compassion for everything and everybody. Everything has more meaning to me. And I have a saying that I don't look so much better on the outside, but I'm so much better on the inside. And people look at me with a strange look, and they get it. They get it. And that means the world to me, to just be able to have my own little phrase. Because I grew up a very handsome bodybuilder, narcissistic, untouchable. And now I'm just a man living for God, taking care of my family and the family of Jesus. It's just amazing to me to see what God put me through to make me come to him. I went through hell to get to heaven. I wasn't right, but now I'm right. Act now while you can find Jesus, because one day it may be too late. Jesus is here for you. All you have to do is open your hand, open your heart, and he'll guide you the rest of the way.